If I have a really busy day, I may remember what I'm reading when I'm reading it, and it makes sense. But when I go throughout my day and my schedule gets busier and busier, I forget about what I just read.
Right.
So why this book is different is it really helps you focus on when you felt something before. The situation may be different, but the emotions you experience, you've experienced them before. So you go back into your database of your mind and say, well, when I felt this, what did I do that worked for me? What did I do that did not work for me? And that's why the premise of the book started. Research states that it takes between 63 to 66 times for change to happen. In other words, for a habit to be created. If you're struggling, and if you're able to find those 5 people that you're talking about, simply ask them for perspective, ask them what they think. Because if they can find the hope for you that you can't find in the moment, you listen to their voice. And when you can reintroduce a new narrative or a new potential thought, it allows for the shift to happen.
Good day, everyone. This is Dr. David Phelps of the Freedom Founders Mastermind Community and Dentist Freedom Blueprint Podcast. I'm back this morning with a good friend, someone I've had the opportunity to get to know over the last year or so, and that is Dr. James Miller. James, how are you, sir?
I am doing very well. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a guest in your show today. I'm really excited.
Well, we've done some interviews back and forth before, and I think the one thing that listeners always tell me is, David, a lot of times I like to turn up the speed to get it faster. In the case with you guys, I have to turn it back. So here, just prepping the audience for what happens when we get going, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So a little bit about James. James is a licensed psychotherapist. He's also a piano composer who resides in Miami, Florida. He's been in the mental health field for 23 years. He's a subject matter expert who has worked in all types of clinical settings, including prisons, residential treatment centers, outpatient clinics, universities, partial hospitalization programs, and most recently was in private practice in the Washington, D.C. area for the past 14 years. Since the age of 3, James has been a performer. He is a talented singer and piano composer who would regularly perform in front of thousands of people and on live television events. In his early 20s, James participated in local commercials, television roles, and documentaries. He was even a principal actor in an indie film in Spain. In 2015, James decided to close his clinical practice. He wasn't feeling fulfilled, believed there needed to be a next step. I love that, for personal growth and development. James moved to Miami, Florida, merged his passion for self-development and his love as a performer, created his brand, James Miller Lifeology. Lifeology started as a daily YouTube episodes, then evolved into a podcast, and later exploded into a nationally broadcasted and syndicated radio show that reaches over 3 million listeners per episode. James is known for his infectious laugh. You already caught some of that this morning. His relaxed manner in explaining why people do what they do. He teaches practical tools and techniques to help people focus on what truly matters in order for them to live their fullest life. So we've exchanged some of this. We've been on podcasts before. We talked about people's next, their involvement, their personal growth, the things that we've both gone through. And I think things that a lot of people are potentially poised to go through, James, but maybe afraid, fearful, right? And yes. No question, certainly the last 2 years, COVID, all the disruption there. I mean, you've got probably story after story after story of what people are still dealing with and will be dealing with for years to come. Now we're moving into a recessionary period. We've got geopolitical concerns with Russia and Ukraine. So much going on today. So many people are, I think, just in that position where they're just not sure. They're uncertain. You've got a new book that's coming out. We're going to talk about this morning because I think it's very timely. No doubt it comes to you because of the work you do with people. The title of the book is Life Lessons. You are the expert on your life. And it's a workbook to help people, I believe, go back in their life and look at previous times when they had to go through different times of change, disruption, volatility, whatever it might be, and what they figured out. Because what I love about what you say is, and it's in the title of the book, we are the expert in our own lives. And nobody else knows us better than we are. So I'm going to stop there and let you kind of jump into kind of the premise and really, again, what prompted you to write this book?
Well, once again, I'm really appreciative of you allowing me to be in your show. When I wrote this book, I was actually looking at my own life. In fact, it was funny when I spoke at your event back in August of last year, of 2021, and I told about an event where 9 years to the day prior to me speaking at that event, I had a huge change. I was a speaker at a really big event in DC, and then the next day I had a breakup and my life just changed. And so what I didn't tell you was about the breakup. So it was interesting when I came back from this event where I spoke, I had the same exact thing happen. So the change in my life, a relationship ended, and all of a sudden I was like, I have been here before. I have literally been here before. So the high of speaking, and then my life changed in a different way. And that's what I realized, James, once again, you've been here before. So if you've been here before, what did you do that worked for you? And what did you do that did not work for you? And so that's how the premise of the book started, because there's so many different self-help books out there where people can read all these different methodologies, and they're absolutely wonderful. But just like you and me, if I have a really busy day, I may remember what I'm reading when I'm reading it, and it makes sense. But when I go throughout my day and my schedule gets busier and busier, I forget about what I just read.
Right.
So why this book is different is it really helps you focus on when you felt something before. The situation may be different, but the emotions you've experienced them before. So you go back into your database of your mind and say, well, when I felt this, what did I do that worked for me? What did I do that did not work for me? And that's how you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And that's why the premise of the book started. So I went through all these different aspects of what the book are. We'll talk about that in a second, of course. And with that, I thought, well, how can people use their data to become the expert in their life? And so that's why Life Lessons was written.
So the first thing I would assume, and I don't have the book yet, but I'm excited to get the book, and we'll talk about where to get it when it comes out. But I assume in a workbook style, you're actually helping people go back in their life and helping them recall some of those specific events and helping them delineate what those look like, right? So we're just, it's kind of like if you know, some people journal, right? And so if you were journaling, you know, or whether you didn't journal, this book helps you go back and like rebuild those time frames. And then so you've got, I'm sure, assume frameworks that help people build out, well, what was going on then and how they dealt with them. And so some of the chapters in the book, like give us some of the areas where you've built these chapters out for people to go back in these particular areas of life, just so we kind of get a feeling for what that might look like.
Sure. When I was thinking about this, I was like, okay, well, let's really walk through what does this look like? And so I was looking at my own life, and I've been in the field for 25 years. And so I was really compartmentalizing what everyone I've worked with, people I've spoken to, what makes sense for them? So I broke it down into 9 categories. And the 9 categories are when your emotions overwhelm you, improving your communication, when you're blindsided by life, improving your relationships, moving on with your life, life lessons, of course, identifying self-sabotage, creating your future, and even tackling your holidays. Because those are, as we know, holidays can be very overwhelming for people. So I broke it down into those 9 categories. And in that, I have between 3 to 6 chapters per category. So there's actually 52 chapters in the book. And so when I create that framework for people, and then I ask them the questions and the prompts that they fill out.
With many years being in clinical practice, no doubt that this book evolved from the discussions, the actual, you know, your practice with individuals. And I'm sure you must have been using this in your practice. I mean, using these concepts, right, in your practice. And
Yes.
so you've been doing this, and therefore you saw the relevance in taking people back. Janie, Jim, you know, let's go back in life. Let's find something similar pattern. And then and as you said, there's a lot of great self-help books out there, but if the concepts are difficult for us to apply because they don't really mean that much to us, then that's where the conflict comes in, right? And here we're actually taking something that we have experience with, which to me would give me more confidence. Oh yeah, I actually have done this before. Different environment right now, but similar situations. So what can I use from that past experience to take me through this particular one to the other side, whatever that might look like?
Exactly. Research states that it takes between 63 to 66 times for change to happen. In other words, for a habit to be created. So to read a new self-help book, once again, absolutely wonderful. And there's so many wonderful things out there. But to read that and then to integrate that, that's going to take a few months, which is fine. You can do that. But if you're someone like me who's like, crap, life is happening right now, what do I do? It's really important to reflect on your past, because if it's a habit, a healthy habit or an unhealthy habit, you're aware of it because you've done it more than 66 days. And so that's why it's really good to reframe the situation, because you already know, once again, what works for you and what does not work for you. And so that's why you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and you can just simply feel something and ask yourself, when did I feel this before? And when you can ask yourself that question, it allows you to go back in time and say, okay, yeah, I did feel this way. It felt overwhelming at the time, but I got through it. Well, what did I do to help me get through it? And what did I do that was not helpful for me?
The chapter "Blindsided by Life." I mean, who any age, of beyond maturity can't say I've been blindsided by something. I mean, you know, for me, it was, my daughter, being in a health crisis. Like, where did that come from? No one told me that was going to happen. And I've used that experience, and I talk about it in my own life. Going through that the first time, extremely difficult. You don't know what you don't know. You definitely need help somewhere. You need to plug in somewhere with people that are going through the same thing, so you don't feel like you're all alone. And that's probably part of it. Like, going through something that blindsides you. Well, probably there's other people that are dealing with some similar fashion. So number one, I don't want to feel alone. There's people that say, hey, it's okay. This happens to other people, and do that. And then just also, I think for me, getting the strength of like a personal, I call it like a personal board of advisors. Like, who are my inner 5 friends
Yes.
or people that they could be business or social or church or whatever, but who are those people that are really close to me that I know I can trust them with my inner thinking, my inner soul, my, what's really going, and they're not going to judge me. Number one, they won't judge me.
Yes.
And so, how those people would help guide me through, because I need perspective. When you're in a place of life where things are just falling apart, or you just disillusioned about what's going on, it's like, we always need perspective. And I think, for me, it's reaching out to people, and that's sometimes hard to do because we want to act like life's good and I got it all together. And yes, I can do this. And it's, yet none of us can go through life just alone. So I just want to throw out one example about that and see if that kind of relates to other people.
Oh, it certainly does. When we are experiencing so much, the majority of us go insular. We turn inward and we lick our wounds, if you will. But the problem is when we do that, we only hear our own voice in our head. So in other words, we relive the situation as if I could have done this or this could have been different. And in doing that, we just keep telling ourselves the same looping thoughts over and over again. And usually it's our fault or there's something wrong with us. And so those core beliefs that we think about ourselves become reinforced because we keep telling ourselves something over and over again. So what I always tell people is this: if you're struggling and if you're able to find those 5 groups of 5 people that you're talking about, simply ask them for perspective, ask them what they think. Because if they can find the hope for you that you can't find in the moment, you listen to their voice. And then when doing that, once you start to think, when you're by yourself again, you may think the same thing about yourself, but say, wait a minute, David said this, so let me think about that. James said this, let me think about that. And when you can reintroduce a new narrative or a new potential thought, it allows for the shift to happen. There's a first response and a second response. The first response is always when someone gets overwhelmed and they don't know what to do. The second response is, this is what we call radical acceptance. You accept the facts as they are. You don't like it. You don't agree with it. You wish it hadn't happened, but these are the facts. And these are the facts. So what do you do now? And that's the second response. And that's when you listen to people like yourself who would be able to help you find that perspective and now say, what do I do with this?
If you enjoyed watching or learning from this video, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more content. If you have a question about any of my content or this specific video, just please leave a comment down below. And as always, stay focused on your freedom. I'll see you next time.